Blog Talk Radio.
All right, good morning, everybody, and welcome to the Women of Golf. We're back here another Tuesday morning here at Women of Golf show, and Cindy is right here with me. Cindy, welcome.
Well, thank you, Ted. It's so nice to be back.
Yeah, we have to do the honorable thing here first, Cindy. We got to apologize to our listeners for last week. Unfortunately, right just as we were getting ready to broadcast live, we had some technical difficulties here on the show, and unfortunately we had to cancel. It was just not going to be a good show, so we apologize for that, and we're grateful that you're joining us back here this week, and we got a great show for you. Of course, we're going to not really rebroadcast, but broadcast part 6 of Cindy's great series that she's been bringing us here on the show, Own Your Game Part 6, and it's part of the Head Game series. And a little bit later in the show, of course, we're going to be joined by the president and founder of Feedback Golf, Shawn McDonald. She's going to be joining us here and talking about the world's first voice-controlled hands-free golf swing training aid. She's going to be talking a little bit about that a little bit later in the broadcast. But let me just remind everybody real quick before we get started. We've got a lot of stuff to cover here this morning. Don't forget, we're live every Tuesday mornings at 9 a.m. Eastern Standard Time here on blogtalkradio.com. And best way to find us there is to go to blogtalkradio.com and either type in up in the search key Women of Golf, or you can just add it on to the link at /Women of Golf, and it'll take you right to the show every Tuesday morning. And to speak with either Cindy or I, or call in and talk with a guest, you can do so at area code 347-945-5855. And or you can also email if you have any questions or comments, or maybe you want to be on the show, you can email us at womenofgolf@gmail.com. And don't forget, you can always get Cindy Miller at cindymillergolf.com. And we'll give you that a little bit later in the broadcast again. But Cindy, let's get right into the series again, and tell us what we're going to be covering this week.
Well, this week we're going to talk about abstract thinking. And what that means is, do you have the ability to use your mind to your advantage rather than to your disadvantage while you're playing in a tournament? You got to be able to use abstract thinking for things, like club selection, course management, creating shots, calculating the changing conditions. If the wind starts blowing, are you smart enough to be aware of that? And the way you'll use a specific club for a specific shot. Can you play different shots, or do you only know how to hit a full shot, like let's say a full 9-iron, and you don't know how to play it back in your stance and hit it low or hit it high, or, how can you use your abstract thinking, and how well are you able to focus on being able to do that?
Right. A lot of the series really talks about our ability to maintain focus, when to bring it into our round, and when to, as we talked about earlier in the series, when to be able to just walk around and smell the flowers, but then be able to call that mental power, if you will, on demand when it's needed. So, Cindy, start us off here, and what are we going to cover with abstract thinking?
Well, you don't want to be wasting your mental energy during a round and think about different things about your mechanics or your golf swing, your self-worth, other people's opinions of you, how well you're doing. I played in a Pro-Am yesterday that was a tournament round for the professionals, and we had to play with 3 women amateurs, and they played their own ball throughout the whole 18 holes. And so some of them were 35 handicaps, which, that's a test mentally. Not only are you being held up on every single shot you hit, but you're playing with people who might top it 20 yards in front of you. So your ability to focus and shift states and not let the gerbil in your head say, oh, my gosh, are you kidding me? Will you please move it? It's very it was very trying, I might say. But I really rallied and was able to do that. And, again, this series is helping me because it's helping me become aware of what I need to do to help me get better. But, the other things that might happen is, what the paper will say about you, what can be distractions, why you haven't won a tournament, how many bogeys you make, how come you always blow this. Again, your mind can go off on a tangent, and you need to be very aware of what your thoughts are doing, and then you need to be able to corral them and say, stop, that's enough. We're not doing that right now. Get over here and let's focus on the task at hand.
Right. And what are some of the things, you talked about some of the things that can obviously affect out on the golf course when you're playing in especially as a professional, you're playing in these pro-ams, 9 times out of 10, you're playing with golfers that are not, either a very high handicap or not very efficient on the course at this point. So it's not only difficult for them and challenging and intimidating playing with, with a professional, but it's also, a little taxing for you as a professional because you've got to keep your mental game sharp in order to be able to handle, just the daily grind, if you will, dealing in a pro-am.
Well, and you need to be able, like yesterday, there wouldn't be a tournament without these people. So
sure.
You need to be grateful that you have the opportunity to play. I think you need to humble yourself sometimes. I think you need thought replacement techniques. Instead of thinking, oh, I'm 1 under par, if I birdie in, I can do this, or if I par in, or I can break 80 today, that's not thinking in the present moment, which we've discussed many times in this series. You just need to be very aware of what's going on around you and then have thought replacement techniques. Be grateful for the opportunity. Maybe help someone. Realize that they're scared to death. When we got in and we were having dinner, one of the women this was her first time playing in this tournament, who was an amateur, said, holy cow, I was shaking like a leaf on the first 3 holes. Well, you need to be aware that they're very intimidated playing with a pro. And so, you need to be able to do that. Understand where they might be coming from.
Right, and we don't want to make light of it. Obviously, the professionals do enjoy, intermingling with some of the amateurs out there and that. But we just want to, let you understand that it's difficult for the professionals to play as well because they're trying to focus on their game, but at the same time they're trying to make it an enjoyable experience and a fun experience for the amateurs as well. So it's kind of a balancing act, if you will, isn't it?
It surely is. And so there's a difference between concrete thinkers and abstract thinkers. Concrete thinkers tend to be slower and more deliberate learners. They would tend to process information simply and directly, whereas abstract thinkers generally are faster learners who process information more rapidly and more complex. So you could tend to be over-analytical of the variables, involved when you're playing a game. And at the same time, you need to be abstract enough to manage difficult course, to determine a successful strategy. Again, this golf course was really hilly, and there was a putt I had on par 4 that was really downhill. And I stopped and paid attention. So I would say the first hint, or I would tell you to do, is just stop for a minute and pay attention to the task at hand and the shot you're hitting. Say, okay, how much slope is in this green? And where's the pin? And how much is this really going to break if I hit it at cup speed? And I really determined that I had to play a lot more break than my initial thoughts were. And I ended up making this putt that probably broke 1.5 feet, but I just kind of stopped and paid attention. So, do you stop and focus on the task at hand in the present moment and really figure out all the calculations that have to go into a shot? did the wind just come up? How hot is it? How cold is it? What's my lie look like? How uphill or downhill is this? Is it really going to play 15 yards farther because it's so uphill? Because if you don't, you can hit a great shot and be short of the green and then bounce down the hill, and now you're going to make bogey or double.
Right, exactly.
And it's very easy to do.
Excuse me. Right, and we've all, whatever level you're playing at, we've all been there. Cindy, there's a number of things that you recommend here that we really need to do in order to help our thinking, on the golf course. Let's kind of break them down, and let's just talk a little bit about each one. And the first one here, one of the ones that you recommend, of course, is developing a mental routine. Talk a little bit about that.
Well, again, we've gone over this week after week after week, and I would say, the first thing you do when you get to your ball is maybe say to yourself, okay, stop. Everything else stops, and let's pay attention to the task at hand. I would call that shifting state. Instead of talking to your playing partner, you might be riding in the car. All right, we get to the ball. All right, stop. Be quiet, be still, and let's pay attention. What are we doing with our calculations? The first thing we do is figure out the yardage. Then we figure out the wind. Then we figure out uphill, downhill. Then we take a look at the lie. Is it a good lie? Is it a bad lie? What is the best, wisest shot that you believe in your gut that you have a 50% chance of pulling off? In other words, if you've got a shot that you have to carry over water 150 yards and your best shot in your life is 150 yards, then we're not going to play that shot because the odds are we're not going to pull it off. So make calculated decisions based on facts, not on hope and wish. And then figure out the playable yardage. Once you figure out the playable yardage, pick a couple different shots. If you're under a tree and you only have 20 yards to hit the ball, that doesn't mean it's a sand wedge. It might mean it's a 6-iron played back in your stance and just roll it through the tree. So the abstract thinking person would be able to create different shots given the situation. Don't just say 20 yards is a sand wedge. You have to be able to inspect your options and create different shots. So that's what I would say first, is pay attention to the task at hand. Stop, shift states. What are we doing here? What's my new challenge on this shot right here, right now?
Right, and I think that the professionals, just through playing so much and working on that area of their game, have developed that. But excuse me, what are some of the things that you see? A lot of obviously playing in the amateur event yesterday, you saw a lot of opposite. What are some common things that you see many of the amateurs doing?
I hear them talking really negatively. And like, oh, I hate this hole. These holes are so hard coming up. That's what one of the ladies said. And I said, stop. If you hit the ball, it doesn't matter how hard the hole is. You hit it really straight. You're hitting it really good. You're having a great round today. Don't sabotage yourself. And again, that would be more in line with her personality, which is fear-based, perfectionism. And it's like, wow, you have no idea that you're sabotaging yourself. When you walk up, you just believe, oh, these holes are so hard. Well, now you're talking yourself into messing them up. Another thing I see them doing is not taking enough club. They might think it's a par 3, so they hit a hybrid when driver. Play the shot for the yard that it is, if you want to score.
Yeah, that's probably one of the biggest things I've heard a lot of professionals playing in the amateur in an amateur pro-am criticize is that most often than not, the amateurs don't take enough club. They underclub probably 90% of the time. And, and the other thing is what you said a moment ago is that they sort of set themselves up for failure. Oh, no, I hate this hole, or, oh, I can't play it dogleg left, or, I'm not a good drawer of the ball, so this hole is just going to eat me up. So there's always, right away, they've set themselves up for a negative experience by putting those negative thoughts. So, that's a great thing, developing, the mental routine and just when you get up to your ball, stop, clear your mind, and focus on the task at hand and not let all these other things, sort of creep in. And obviously the professionals have certainly not mastered it, but have done a much better job, than some of the, than a lot of the amateurs that we, have had to play with. And I think one of the things, Cindy, which sort of falls into the next nation is it can help us a little bit, and that's goal setting. Let's talk about that a bit.
Well, you need to be able to set mental goals for yourself. It's for any round that you play, not just in tournaments, but any round that you play, because a round is a round is a round. Right. I would like to not give any round any more value than another round. For me, I am trying a new pre-shot routine with how I walk into the ball. I tend to walk in the ball and aim way right and then come over it and yank it. And so yesterday I made a deal with myself that I was going to walk into it open on every single shot and make sure that I was totally comfortable before I swung. Well, that's something that I can control. I can't control what I shoot. I can't control what the ball does. So you need to develop some goals that you can absolutely, definitely control, which we call process goals. So, Cindy, will you commit to yourself to do your pre-shot routine on every shot and stop and take your time to make a clear decision that you will commit to on every single shot you hit? Sometimes if you start falling behind, people start to rush, and they don't pay attention to what they're doing, and then they get upset that they missed the shot. Well, you just caused that to happen yourself. So goal setting for me, what can you control? Majority of the time your abstract skills, therefore your play, will be enhanced if you trade outcome goals for specific and attainable performance goals. So like yesterday, I shot even par, and I wasn't real happy with that. I made 3 birdies and 3 bogeys. The bogeys that I made, I probably could have done a little bit better. But on the other hand, I made a couple of good putts, but I stuck to my routine. So instead of beating myself up for shooting even par, I need to pat myself on the back and say, you know what, you stuck to your process all day long. Good girl. Because it's hard. You really have to be mentally tough to deal with all the distractions, with all your playing partners, with driving your amateurs around in the cart, because typically in a pro-am you get your own cart if you're the pro, and I didn't. I had a great playing partner. I was so grateful for her. She was awesome. But again, you have to know what can I control and what can I not control. Right. Maybe, trading the goal of a score to one of visualizing at least 80% of your shots. The score will take care of itself if you focus on something you can control. So I would say the goal, section of this, make a goal, I will always choose a club that I'm comfortable hitting no matter how far it goes. Because I have people that come in all the time. Go ahead, I'm sorry. Right. No, that's okay. Cindy, do you think a lot of the amateurs, in this area, in setting goals, are maybe a little bit too limiting themselves? And I'll give you an example. A lot of them will say, well, I want to try and break 90, or I want to try and sort of hit for their goal. And it really isn't enough. That might be an overall, target goal that they want to achieve maybe over the course of the summer, let's say, in playing. That's their ultimate goal. They want to break 90, or they want to break 100, or whatever the case may be. But they need to, when it comes to a round, they need to be a little bit more specific. They don't have to overcomplicate things, but they need to be a little bit more specific, like you had just said. I'm going to, choose to pick the club and and so on and so forth. Do you think that that's part of the problem too? Is they're just too narrow in their thinking? Well, I believe they're too narrow in their thinking. They could say, I really want to break 90. So then I would say to them, well, let's look at how you play. How many fairways do you hit out of 18 holes? Can you hit 14 fairways? Let's say you're hitting 10 fairways, which is pretty good. Are you able to get on the green in 1 over regulation? Of the 4 fairways you miss, are you in the trees, or do you hit it out of bounds? Because if you're hitting 10 fairways and you're making 3 triples, are 4 of those drives you're missing going out of bounds? Because then we need to fix out of bounds. where can we find shots? That's what I would ask them. Where can we find shots? You want to break 90, but you have no idea how you can do that. So I try to shed light on how they would be able to do that if they stopped and paid attention to what they're really doing on the course. Then once we focus on that, we might even tell them, absolutely do not even hit your driver. Yeah.
Well,
you want to be able to stop hitting an OB.
Right, and you raise a valid point. A lot of times, they may have an overall goal, keeping with theme here, of breaking 90, but they really don't know how to achieve that. And if you're uncertain of how to achieve that goal, you're really chasing after the donkey's tail, so to speak, without being able to see the tail and how to it. And I think this is where teaching professionals such as yourself come in to play, because we can sort of give them the tools and help them, sort of show them how they are able to do that. And then once they have once you have the proper tools, you can accomplish virtually anything. But if you don't have the tools, everybody thinks, well, I'm just not a good enough player. That's not true. I've seen people that were not the best ball strikers, but they had certain skills and tools that were made available to them to accomplish the goals they needed. And that's really what we're talking about here, is setting yourself up to be able to have the tools that you need to go out and play the best game that you can. And obviously over time and through repetition and things like that, you're going to become a better player. But if you don't have those tools in place, then you're not going to be a better player.
Well, I also believe that people have had so much strife in golf that they really don't believe they have the ability to do what they want to do. So when you get so much negative feedback or criticism, you always do that. Will you please keep your head down? You bent your elbow again. What are you doing that for? So that's all they hear. So, and I would say, and that's why I started the thing that I was the fairy golf mother, because if I can get better and I can defeat my own demons, then anybody can get better. So I believe there is a way to do that, but they have to be willing to look in the mirror and say, like for my personal example, are you afraid to win? Are you afraid to make birdies? Why are you protecting? Why not pursue? And so it's really a mirror of your soul, and if you choose to get better, you absolutely, definitely can. I mean, let's use Michelle Wee as an example. I mean, here she is, a 10, 11-year-old star, phenom, who goes through a bunch of challenges. They finally tame her parents, get them out of the picture. She graduates from college, and now she's coming back, and her true talent is showing, and she truly looks like she's enjoying the ride. And that's what's going on. This is a personal comeback. It's not, she's finally good. This is a personal comeback for Michelle Wee. And God bless her for not giving up. So, again, it doesn't matter who you are, how old you are, how good you are. You can always choose to get better. But you also need to be willing to look in the mirror. So are you just saying this, or are you truly wanting to hear the truth?
Exactly. The other one of the other key components, I think, that all golfers have, and we've seen this, especially at the professional level, everybody from, of course, Nancy Lopez right through to Jack Nicklaus, is good course management. And that's something that really is important as well, is you need to develop a good course management plan. So let's talk about that a little bit as well and how that comes into play.
Well, that's absolutely the truth. I mean, you need to develop an effective plan for playing each hole. Let's say you play at a private club or a public course, and you play the same course all the time, and there's a particular hole that drives you crazy. And I hate this hole, and I always make double bogey. Well, let's stop and pay attention and say, well, how else could I play this hole? Could I hit a 5-iron over to the left? And then chip up. I mean, again, if you plan and strategize on how you can make an efficient bogey, that's way better than a double or triple. So you need to do as much planning, take adequate time, either in a practice round or with good relaxed imagery. What's the best way for me to attack this hole with the skill set that I have? And how can I determine clubs and targets and types of shots and estimated pin placements and conditions, and if the wind's blowing, I'll do this, and if the wind's not blowing, I'll do that, and then commit to the game plan, even on the most difficult holes. You don't want to play golf with clenched butt cheeks, let me tell you. It's not fun.
Yeah.
So you got to resist the temptation to change your plan during a round. Except for injury or
I think
be changing weather conditions.
Right, exactly. And I think a lot of amateurs are under this misnomer that, so-and-so is going to win the tournament because they can hit the ball farther or they're a little straighter shot. Certainly those things do give a player an advantage. But if you look back in history, the most effective players were the players that had good course management skills. I mean, as I said, Nicklaus, Lopez, Tiger on the men's tour more recently. These are the people. Certainly they had some distance in that in their game, but they weren't necessarily the furthest hitters on. And not only even the. I mean, Nicklaus would find some errant shots here and there as well, as I'm sure as Nancy did and Tiger. But they had very good course management, and that's why they were so successful in their careers in winning tournaments. Is they were able to manage during the tough times as well as the good times. And when you're an effective player like, it's pretty tough. I don't care how far you hit the ball. If somebody can manage their game better than you, more often than not, they're going to win.
Absolutely. And an example earlier in the season, I don't even remember what tournament it was, but Zach Johnson laid up on a par 5 or a par 4 because he couldn't get over the water because he didn't hit his drive well enough. And he laid up, Tiger was on, and this guy got it up and down. Do you remember that this year?
Yep. Yeah, I do. I can't think of the tournament either, but yeah, I remember that.
Tiger. I mean, and Tiger probably hit the 30, 40 yards back past Zach Johnson. You need to realize you're not against competitors. You're playing against the golf course and yourself.
Right, exactly. And that, that, as I said, was to show you that, a lot of people, and I'm using Tiger again as an example, part of the reason that a lot of people were intimidated by Tiger was not because he was hitting it farther or anything like that, but his whole process was so tough that he was able to stay in and play his own game. And what he was able to do was he was able to throw everybody else off of their game. Instead of them focusing on their own games, they were chasing after him. They were focusing on, well, how do I catch Tiger? How do I do this? Or how do I, they were now turning the focus away from their own games and putting it on his game. And once you do that, you might as well pack up and go home.
Exactly. He's gotten into your head.
Exactly. So keeping that in mind, how do we regulate?
Yeah, exactly.
That's what I was going to say. Exactly.
You need to be able to choose what you're going to think about between shots. Remember, while you're playing golf, you're physically involved only 20% of the round. And that would go back to our example with Annika, taking mental vacations between shots and choosing to imagine what she was going to do with her new kitchen when she won her first U.S. Open at Pine Needle. Again, you need to know what you're going to think about and keep your thoughts positive and constructive, at least neutral, if you're having any chance of playing in or close to the zone. This very long period of time, 80% between shots, what are you really thinking about? If you're ruminating about, oh, my God, I can't believe I just made double bogey, and you just hit it OB, and you always do that, and, badgering yourself, it's not going to help at all. So you got to be able to manage and regulate your thoughts, and that's the main reason golf can be considered so difficult and mentally one of the toughest sports there is.
Yeah, so true, and we can't emphasize enough. I know some of what you're hearing, it might seem a little bit repetitive, but I think it's important that we can't emphasize enough how important it is. All these different steps that Cindy's covering through the Own Your Game are very important. And don't be confused and think, well, geez, I got to remember all of this stuff. No, it's not that. It becomes a natural process. We're just trying to give you as I said a few moments ago, we're trying to set you up with the proper tools on how to be able to yourself before the round, during the round, and even after the round. And so we want you to really focus and pay attention to this and help spread the word. Get some others, tuning into the program and listening, because I think it's very important. This is an area that's really not covered, I don't think, much. Everybody's more worried about hitting the ball straight and hitting it further. This is the area right here that's going to help you become a better player. Would you agree?
Absolutely, without a doubt.
All right. And we're going to be continuing on next week. Another section of this series, Emotionally Stable. We're going to be covering that next week on the Own Your Game series. That's going to be part 7. But Cindy, thanks for bringing another great segment to this series. I enjoy it, and I hope the listeners enjoy it. And as I said, make sure that you let some of your playing partners out there know about this series, and they can come in. If they're not able to tune in during the live broadcast, they can visit the Women of Golf link at any time after the show and pick it up at that point. But we appreciate you tuning in. We've got our guest, Cindy, waiting in queue here, so we got to bring her on and continue on with the show. But thank you, Cindy, for bringing a great series to the program.
My pleasure.
Okay. Our guest this morning is a very the accolades speak for herself. Let me just read you a little bit about her. She's the founder and president of Feedback Golf, and it's the world's first voice-controlled hands-free golf swing training aid, and Shawn McDonald. And just to give you a little bit about Shawn's background, she's a leadership expert and respected Fortune 500 company executive. Shawn McDonald, of course, capitalized on her 22 years of business development, information technology, and engineering knowledge to found Feedback Enterprise LLC, and this was back in 2012. Her visionary and leadership talents were recognized very early in her career, and she's anticipated the trend from desktop to web-based applications and pitched this idea to improve business communications. In 1999, she became the chief architect of a web-based service contract enterprise information management system, which is still considered an industry remains in use today by NASA and the Department of Defense. So this guest this morning certainly has some great credentials, and we want to bring her on and have her talk a little bit about her future. Shawn, welcome to Women of Golf.
Well, thank you very much.
Good morning. Welcome, Shawn.
Thank you.
I hope I did you justice in reading out some of the accomplishments that you've had, and certainly couldn't get to them all. There was too many of them, but certainly come with a very powerful resume. Shawn, if you will tell us a little bit about your vision of golf and how it sort of.
Yeah, sure. So my career was kind of in transition, and I spent 20 years wanting to incorporate golf into my lifestyle and never really doing it because there always seemed to be other things to do. And so one day I was at the driving range saying, okay, now I'm really going to get serious about this. And I was swinging away at the golf ball, and I realized that I was probably maybe exercising, but I definitely wasn't doing anything to actually improve my golf swing. Mostly because I just couldn't see or know what I was doing. Sometimes it felt really good, sometimes it didn't, and I just had no idea what was happening. And it's always, I've had instruction before, and that's great, but there's that whole process of needing to schedule it, coordinate it, and if you just have that, oh, look, I have a few extra minutes and I want to get out and do something, that doesn't lend itself well to having an instructor standing there helping you, or even coordinating with your friends who could help you. So anyway, I was looking at my cell phone, and I said, well, that's got a camera on it. It could certainly video me, but it became cumbersome because then you have to figure out, well, where do I put it? How do I set the thing up? If I do record my swing, then I'm going to have a really long video with only a few seconds that I actually care about. So I went home that night and I Googled and looked around, and I found some different apps that were out there that would help you record your golf swing, but they all required sort of a countdown. type scenario. Well, and I thought, well, I talked to my car, so why couldn't I just tell my phone, ready, and it beep, and then it record my swing, and a few seconds later it would be finished. So that was, I thought, well, that's what I want. So we just started talking to some other people, and they said they wanted the same thing, so we built it.
Fantastic. Cindy, I know that you had some questions that you wanted to ask of Shawn, so please go ahead.
Yeah, I think I've got the equipment, and I think it's awesome. It's great because you don't need another person to press go. Shawn, explain to us how it works, that you can videotape yourself by yourself and you don't have to go walk back to your bag or the stand and how it really works.
Sure. So what we did is we found a nice kind of universal clamp that would hold most smartphones, a tripod that has little flexible legs so you can wrap it around maybe a golf bag or a golf stand or pretty much something you find out at the driving range. And then we give you a little Bluetooth that looks like a little credit card that you wear on your hip. It works just like the normal headset that we're used to seeing Bluetooth. It doesn't go on your head. And the reason for that is some people with bad swings, for example myself, that thing flopping around on your ear, or if your head moves a lot, even though it's not supposed to during the swing, it might fly down the driving range. So we found that this little credit card-looking Bluetooth that sits on your hip was much more comfortable. And what happens is you start up our app, we call it Feedback Collect, you hit a green button, says Collect Swing, hit that, and the system's going to say, please say ready to record video. Then you say the word ready. It will beep. When you hear that first beep, you know that it started recording, and now you have 5 seconds or whatever you set it for to take your swing. When you hear the second beep, it's finished. And then you can look and kind of reset yourself and go, okay, next time I'm really going to hit the ball well. Say the word ready. It beeps. Record your video. You take your swing while it's recording. And you just keep that sort of natural rhythm going of you just saying the word ready and the system beeping. You can really kind of do things very naturally at your own pace without somebody there, and you're recording when you are controlling when it starts the video.
Well, I think what's really cool is the fact that you don't need to walk back and press play or start, if you will, on the recording. And I must tell you, the little holder for the cell phone, the little tripod, it looks like a little person almost. It's very cool, and it will wrap around anything.
Do a really good job holding things. The foam cover flexible legs are great.
Yeah, it is awesome. Now, tell us about the instructor part. So I have some students who have purchased the equipment, and I'm not sure I'm using it right. So they need to log in. Tell us how that works.
Sure. So your students would need to log into their feedback account under their name. They could record their videos, and whichever ones they want you at, I should say, they'll go to our online system and they'll say, Cindy Miller is my golf instructor. And anytime they favorite one of their recorded videos, Cindy's going to get an email saying your student, Samantha, has favorited a video, and then you can go in there. You'll automatically be able to see that video. Now this is all online, not in the phone app, but actually online. You could draw the pictures over the top, maybe give some audio notes, maybe write some comments with regards to the swing, and then hit another button in the online app, and they'll get notified that you've made all those comments and done all those things. So it's really, we think it's an easy way of sharing video between student and instructor.
That's great.
The trick
now,
is the student needs to log in and record it.
Is all that done in the clubhouse?
Yes, ma'am. That is all done in our clubhouse. And the clubhouse is accessible via any browser. It's completely online. You don't have to download anything. So it's just a matter of going to our website, feedback-golf.com, and emailing the clubhouse.
Perfect. So what if you're on the driving range and you record a swing and you have an account, and you go, you don't have the internet on your phone. Let's say there's no Wi-Fi, and you want your golf coach to see this video and send you feedback because you're out of town playing in a tournament. Will it still work when you get back to where Wi-Fi is?
Yes, ma'am, it will. So it will record all those videos in what we call airplane. If you're in airplane mode, which is pretty much what you just described, it'll record all those videos, and it'll be captured when you go to your clubhouse on your mobile device. It'll say offline videos. And then when you do get to some place where you have Wi-Fi or good data connectivity, you can click one button in the upper right-hand corner, and it says Upload All, and it'll upload all those videos to the online clubhouse, and then your instructor can see them.
Perfect. So in order for the instructor to see the video, you have to favorite the swing?
Yes, ma'am. You have to favorite the videos that you want the instructor to see.
Okay.
And let me just ask real quick. I'm very intrigued by that. As Cindy, you raise a valid point, because not everybody has on their mobile device either has the ability to connect right away. So I like the fact that it does store them offline, so that somebody that maybe doesn't have a device that uses a traditional cell phone, like a tablet or something that maybe doesn't have has to use a Wi-Fi connectivity. I like the fact that they can still use your product, Shawn, without having to have that, and then later on when they get back into a situation where they do have Wi-Fi or what have you, then they can still take advantage of it. So that's great, because a lot of the apps out there, you have to have that. If you don't have connectivity right away, they don't work.
Right. That was a really important feature that we wanted to take care of. Also, because you might be traveling, and if you're in another country, you definitely don't want to inadvertently use your data plan. So the airplane mode, it'll work. You have full functionality of being able to record your videos when you're in airplane mode.
Let me just, Shawn, if I can, and Cindy, let me just jump in here. I have just a couple of quick questions, and then Cindy, I'll let you continue on. Two questions. First off, Shawn, what is the range, if you will? Like, how far away can the device be away? I mean, obviously you don't want it a mile away, but how far to be that you'll still get a good signal between the portion that's on your attached to your belt and the actual your device? How far away can it be to have a good signal?
Up to 10 feet away.
Okay.
So
that's pretty good.
That's pretty far. You only really need to be about. It'll work farther than that, but we recommend you stay about 10 feet away.
Okay, which is pretty standard for most most driving ranges or practice ranges that you go. You're not going to have it that far away, anyways. But I just want to do that. And the other thing is, what about signal interference? As an example, if let's say Cindy and I were up in the range and we were fairly close to one another, we both had the same device. Is there of any of us interfering to one another's signal?
Yeah, interesting question. It works. It's a Bluetooth connected, so it works just like the Bluetooth headset. So no, because each Bluetooth headset is coded. Whenever you pair your Bluetooth to your phone, we're using that same technology to pair each individual Bluetooth device to the phone. So there should be no interference. It's looking for. It's not going to. It won't pick. If you're in a very, very noisy environment, we do see some issues. But usually at the driving range, there's not a lot of ambient noise. So we haven't seen any real problems out there.
Okay. That's good. Cindy, do you have?
Yes. One other question. If someone does not own the device, so let's say, example, I do a golf clinic with 12 people, and I videotape, and then I have to leave town, and I would like them to be able to see their video, but they don't want to spend $79.95 on the device. How can I share stuff with them?
Sure. They can create an account with feedback for free. All of our initial accounts are free. And right now, we would need to help an instructor share those videos out. You need some technical support from us. We haven't automated that. But the biggest thing is all those 12 people would need an account, and you'd need to just tell us who gets what video, and we'll take care of it.
Okay. But what if you wanted to join? Let's say I helped someone with this happened on Father's Day. I was in Boston doing a clinic and playing 9 holes with a wonderful gentleman from England. And I gave him a lesson. This is amazing. And the guy made 3 birdies and an eagle on 9 holes.
Wow.
And he said, wow, you're on my Christmas list. I said, I better be on your Christmas list. Are you kidding me? So, now he's going to go back to England, and he wants to lower his handicap from an 11 to a 5. So would he join? Is there a $20 fee or something for a yearly?
Yeah, right. So can join for free, and then if he has more than 20 videos that he wants to upload to you, it would be a $20. It would be $20 annually, or $19.99 technically. But
okay.
And it'll actually prompt him after the 20th video. We'll prompt him and say, "Hey, would you like to register and become an annual member?"
Okay. But I was under the assumption that he could not upload videos if he didn't have the equipment.
He can upload videos up to the 20. You can upload up to 20 videos for free.
Okay, but let's say he spends the $20. So he doesn't have to buy the unit.
No, ma'am.
Upload videos?
No, you don't. You do not need to have. So the tripod and the clamp and the Bluetooth are optional. You don't have to have those in order for the application to work. The app is fully functional for free, except for, like I said, it limits the fact that you can only upload 20 videos. And then if you want to upload more than that, you do need to pay the $19.99.
Okay, that's good. I didn't understand that. That's great.
Well, and that's actually good because not everybody, obviously in this budget-friendly world that we're living in now, that really gives a lot of people options. And that's great. One of the things I like about that, Shawn, is the fact that it's really adaptable to anybody's budget. Somebody that maybe doesn't want us to outlay the $79.95 or $99, I believe it was, $95, and purchase the whole package, the whole bundle. They can still participate. In the process for an annual fee of really if they want to go above 20 videos for $19.99, and that's certainly very reasonable. But I think obviously that, the optimum thing, really, what you want to be able to do is to collect to purchase the bundle, because there's an advantage of that, as Cindy pointed out earlier. There's nothing more frustrating, especially if you're on your own. If you're with an instructor, that's different. But when you're on your own and you want to, shoot video, you either have to ask somebody on the range to, hey, do you mind shooting this video for me? Or you have to run back and forth to your device, and it's very cumbersome and very awkward. So I like that the device does in that, and I like the fact that you can, use it without having to have a Wi-Fi connectivity at the source. It'll still record everything offline. And then you can, use its full functionality once you get back into Wi-Fi and upload it from that point. So what a great product. And just one sort of final question, if I may. What are some of the things you're planning to do, changes or modifications that you're planning for future?
Sure. Well, we are. In about 2 weeks, we'll be coming out with the Android version. So right now, this is a complete iOS version. The iOS version does work very nicely on iPad. You do, whenever you go to the App Store, it's the iPhone app, but it looks good on a iPad. So upcoming things is the Android version comes out in about 2 weeks. And we're looking to continue add functionality. For example, we want you to be able to import videos that maybe you had collected just on your phone itself or via some other systems. So we're going to be adding the ability to import in videos. and also continue to improve that sharing of videos between instructor and student. We really see this product for 3 different types of golfers, if you will. We have that, we call it the DIY golfer, so you just want to go out and do it yourself. And then you have your student and your instructor. And so we're building out functionality for all 3 of those different types of golfers to help them improve their game.
That's perfect.
Well, fantastic.
That's exactly what we should be doing. Perfect.
Very well said. And well, we appreciate you coming on the program, Shawn, and Cindy, if you want to do the honors and thank our guest.
Yeah, thank you so much, and I think that the Feedback Golf product is awesome. If you want to purchase it, it's $79.95. You can purchase it at www.feedback lowercase, or tell me what's the website, golf.com. Shawn?
Sounds great.
Yes, feedback-golf.com. Thank you so much for coming on. I really appreciate it, and I'm looking forward to all the new functionality with sharing student and instructor videos. This is awesome. Thank you, Shawn.
Great. Thank you, guys.
And I'm looking forward to it coming out for the Android version because I don't have an iPhone, so I'm going to have it on my tablet when it comes available. But definitely a great product. I was down at the PGA show this year, of course, and saw a lot of different interesting electronic apps and things out there, but this is certainly one that stands out above many of the others that I've seen. So thank you very much for coming on Women of Golf, Shawn, and sharing that with our audience, and much continued success and luck with your product.
Great, thank you.
All right. You have a great day, and thank you for joining us. Okay. Just to wrap things up, as we said a few moments ago, Cindy's going to be coming back next week, of course, with part 7 of Own Your Game series, and that's going to be covering a whole new section, and that's going to be the emotionally stable part of our game that we need to cover. And Cindy, I know we're looking forward to bringing this. And I just want to remind everybody again that the importance of bringing these series to you each and every week is to help you with your game. I mean, it's very easy to talk about, hitting the ball straight and hitting it further, and we certainly all want to be able to have that in our bag as well. But we need to work on the mental side of our game, and I can't think of a better person to have in the bag than Cindy Miller. So make sure that you check out her website, cindymillergolf.com, and you can email her at cindy@cindymillergolf.com. We want to thank everybody for tuning in each and every week and listening to the program, and we hope that you will continue to do so. We're on blogtalkradio.com, Women of Golf, every Tuesday morning at 9 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. And don't forget, if you want to email the program, you can do so at womenofgolf@gmail.com, or you can email Cindy Miller at cindy@cindymillergolf.com. And don't forget to visit her site, Cindy Miller Golf. Cindy, thanks for bringing a great series.
Well, thank you, Ted, for having me on. This is a pleasure and a treat, and hopefully we're helping people get better and learn to own their game.
That's right. And we will see you guys back here next week on the Women of Golf. Thank you. God bless, and have a great week, everybody.